We've all been there. You go to your car, you've been shopping or something, and you press your remote, and what happens? Absolutely nothing. So the battery in my remote's gone dead, and it's time to put a new one in. Here's how you do it. So first of all, we're going to change the battery in the remote. That is in reasonably good condition. So to do this, we're going to need to lever apart the Bentley side off the rest of the body. To do that, you're going to need a flat bladed screwdriver. You need to get in there and lift it up. These are a little bit tricky, not too bad, but you've got to be careful that you use a big enough screwdriver. Now you see it comes apart. Once that's apart, you can access the battery, which is just there, and then we can get a new one to put in it. There you go, pop down on like that. New battery out. These batteries are actually only £2.50 for 6. As they're a Panasonic and they're from a shop that sells a lot of batteries, so they're probably relatively good. But even so, they tend to last about 12 months. So get that out, make sure it's positive facing up. That's the positive side. Slip it in, front to back, and clip it so that it mounts underneath. And then refitting, it's just the opposite of taking it apart. I'm not particularly bothered about this piece, to be honest. I don't ever hang anything on my keys, so I'm going to choose to leave that one off. And to put it together, you press down hard on it until it clips, like that. And it's done. Happy days. So we've got a green light now to show that it's operating, whereas before there wasn't one. We know that's in good condition, the battery's alright. So that's another little repair done, and I know it isn't a big deal really, just changing the batteries in a remote, but if you don't know how to do it, then it is a big deal. And if you take it to Bentley, I'm sure they want to charge you quite a lot of money for their time. Never before has a boy wanted more. But we're not finished yet. The second job is a little bit more involved, and that is because this old remote has seen much better days. As you can see, everything on it's worn off. It's got a real grubby bottom end where the battery's been changed a few times, and it's just in general poor condition. So I've actually purchased one online to do this, and that comes in this kit here, and that's what we'll be going on with next. So to do this job, you're going to need a scraper or something similar with a strong springy blade. I also used a screwdriver, and you're going to need a jeweler's screwdriver with a tiny posi drive bit. When you first take the unit out of the bag, it'll be completely built like this. You need to open the key, slot your scraper in, or whatever you're using that's thin enough, and pry these up. Do each side one at a time, and it'll come off quite easy. That's good. Same with the other side. That's off. And then we need to remove this back, which, just as before, when we were changing the battery in the old one, pops out. There it is. Happy days. Then we need to take the screws out and access where the new PCB is going to go. That again. So the first job is to take the old one apart, and to do this we need to remove the Bentley cover again, as we did in the previous video for the battery removal. We're going to pry that off. That one, you can see, if you look, this one has definitely seen better days. It's been chewed up quite badly, and I think some parts of it have even been glued together, so that'll make it extra interesting. Just pop the battery out. Again, these batteries are so cheap, it's not worth trying to use the same one again. And you've got 3 main screws to remove on this, but also we need to take off at least one of the sides. So to do that, we're going to pry up under there, Don't try and pry it up from one side, and yeah, it's probably a good idea to take the key out. Just release that. Okay. So that's now off. This side should come off as well. I'll have a go at prying that up. It may not come off. I have a feeling this one is glued in place. And whilst I'm not actually keeping this unit, you might well be as a spare. Now this one is not going to come off, unfortunately, so I'm just going to have to undo the screws, which there are 3 of. We've got a screw there, there, and one there. These need to be off. Now these are really tiny and will definitely get lost. So if you've got a bowl or a dish you can drop stuff into, that would be a good idea. It's also a good idea to earth yourself before you start touching printed circuit boards and things like that. There we go, one. Should be able to earth yourself on a radiator, providing your radiators are fitted properly. They're all earthed. Get this off. We should be able to take it apart. I have a feeling that side is going to need to come off. It's going to be awkward without it, so we'll have another go. I hate it when you watch videos and it makes things look simple. And in the real world, it never is. There's always a problem somewhere.
Tearing up the land. YouTube channel screaming Bentley on a budget. Old school guy, but he's still gonna love it. Fixing pipes all day, talking cars all night. Old man groove, but he fights the good fight. Terrible edits, and the camera's a mess.
Finally, that was quite a struggle. So what clips this on is tension basically. But as I say, it's been glued and that really didn't help very much. Thanks for that. Okay, we should be able to take this apart now. And when we do, you can expect this key and the spring that's on it to fly out and go somewhere else. There it goes. Inside there, you have the spring with the button, your key, which you'll be using this again, and the circuit board with your LED and your 3 button switches on. Seems to be in okay condition. Just going to earth myself out again before I take it off. Should just pry off. There it is. Pay attention to this spring, because when you replace the fob, you're going to need to put that spring in the right place. Okay, so we have the things that we're going to use again, which is the circuit board and the key itself. So obviously the one that comes with it has a blank key. We could probably use that spring again, because it's worked with this unit. The rest of it is pretty much for the junk pile. So now we have the components that came with the kit. And you'll already recognise some of them. For subscribing members, obviously I'm going to share with you the details of where this unit came from. And it comes complete with all of the screws. In fact, it even comes with a spare screw. These are absolutely tiny, these screws. They're ridiculously small. So So it's really good of them to keep you or give you a spare. You can just see how small that is compared to my finger. A lot of fun. Okay, so first job then is going to be for me to mount the printed circuit board in here. Obviously the right way around. Pop it into place there. Really careful with PCBs. Yeah, it's making sure the switches are switching. It tells me that's far enough down, and obviously the battery keeps it in place as well. And we need to install that spring that I was talking about before, this one here, which is what keeps your battery in place. And I think that goes somewhere around there. We'll refer to the old one to see. Yep, contacts up, and it shrouds in a tiny gap in there. Slots into place eventually. Quite a fiddly little job, but it is doable, even with 10 thumbs like I've got. Now that needs to go together on there, and then we can screw it together. Just not quite happy about that joint there. I'm expecting that to snap in, but it's not. So we'll have a look and see why that might be. Could be the PCBs a bit too far down. Just adjust it a little bit. Yeah, it's gone in at the bottom now. That's it. Now that just clicked into place. Happy with that now. I have a feeling I might have to get my readers on in a minute. There we go. I'm not hearing a click from this button, so I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to take it all apart again. I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, so we've got the unit taken back apart, and obviously I jumped a gun a little bit. I should have had this key wound in to that before I put them together, just to make sure this is the right way around. This knob fits through from the bottom. You can see that. There's two little slots in there, there's two corresponding lugs, and then there's a third one which is your control lug. So we get that in, like that, and this is pressed onto that, and we turn it around to put it under tension. Needs a good couple of turns. Meanwhile, trying to make sure it doesn't jump off, as it is wont to do so. Okay, now we need to put the screws back in. Really are so tiny. This screwdriver is probably a bit too big, if anything, but it's certainly better than nothing. Okay, so we've got that back together. Now we need to put the sides on, which come with this. So obviously this one goes on this side and clips on. This one goes on this side and clips into place. So it's certainly a lot easier than the original one. And then we want a new battery. So we get another new battery out. You're probably not wondering why I've got so many scars on my hands now, so you know I work. That's the battery in place. Do a quick test. Need to put the back on first, I'm guessing. Put the back on. A good hard press. That's it. That's on. And voila! One working key. Happy days. So this is just a little extra for the members. Something to be aware of with these replacement remotes is that the battery location and the springs that are supplied with them are meant to hold them in place and achieve a connection through the positive and negative terminals. The positive terminal is the actual spring itself. And that creates a circuit when it touches the battery edge all the way around, which is there and there. But they're not very well cast, and the springs are not as good as the originals. So you may have to do a little bit of fiddling about to get them repositioned correctly in order for it to all work. Just a point to note, you might not have this problem, I may have just been unlucky, but I would say it's an indication of when you're only spending sort of 30 quid on a replacement of something that would cost you a couple of £100, there's always a reason for it. So the problem is, having examined the old one and the new one, these two spider fang type deals here, on the old one was sticking up, and on the new one they were actually bent down. Now I might have bent them down when I was doing it, and they're unfortunately supposed to touch ground here, and of course we weren't able to do so because they were actually pointing the other direction. So I've pulled them down a little bit, just eased them down a bit, and we'll try it again and see what happens. So I've just popped the battery back in, having bent the pins down. You can see now we've got the green light. Happy days. Yeah, absolutely spot on. Perfect. Before, it started actually going where it wouldn't respond even if I was right next to the car. So that's a result. Awesome. So there we have another cheeky little video, and this week it may not have been rocket science, but being able to change the batteries in your remote is a useful thing to be able to do. And if you went to a main dealers for it, I'm sure they'd want to charge you 80, 90 quid probably. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section below. While we're on, can I just mention that I've started a membership so that I can actually spend more time and invest a little bit more money into the channel, and hopefully end up with some decent vids. So if you've appreciated anything that I've done for you in the last 8 or 9 months, then please consider becoming a member. It costs as little as 99 pence a month, and members get certain perks like access to members only videos, and some of those videos have taken me a great deal longer to put together and include some information that normally wouldn't be included and that other people can't see. So please support the channel if you can. Let me know if there's anything in the comment section that I can do to make the offer better, and I look forward to welcoming you as a member of the Bentley on a Budget family. All the best and happy motoring. And guys, you don't have to become members. If you want to say thanks, you can simply go to the bottom button, press thanks, and send us a couple of quid. I appreciate everything. Thanks a lot, guys.